I've got the moving averages on the MACD about to move. I've got momentum and volume picking up on the sell side. Everything about this said we're about to fall. Here you go, Jen. So remember how I said I was going to take a put right there and look for that fall? Here you go. I was looking at the MACD. Only 7 of them got filled, but here you go. 7 minutes. I bought 7 of them for 0.68 and then sold all 7 for 0.75. So that was a little over 10% return in 7 minutes. What went into that trade? Why did I take that trade? What was I looking at? Just so you guys are aware, I got in right here on the secondary and I sold on this dip here. Okay, this gave me 10% on a weekly same day expiring option. Now, first of all, never, ever, ever, ever played same day expiring options unless you really know what you're doing, because you will get wrecked. The reason that they're good is because if you're right, the direction will move significantly in a smaller move on the equity, on the actual stock price. If you are wrong, you'll lose that much more money, okay, on a small move on the underlying equity. Okay, what is an underlying equity? It means the actual stock price, okay? What went into this? First of all, let's talk about why was I even focusing on Boeing to begin with? Like right now, that chart says Boeing's about to turn to the upside, right? So if I was playing this on volume and the chart, I'd be taking calls off this. And there it goes right there. It popped right there. See, it popped right there. One right here. So I'd be taking this. All the indicators tell me that I'd want to scalp this on a 250 or 260 call that expires today for the same thing. But the problem here, I'm not going to take it, is because there's no volume. You see what I'm saying? So there's no real buyers or sellers there. So first things first, why Boeing? Why was I even looking at Boeing to begin with? Well, the reason I was looking at Boeing on the downside to begin with is, number one, I want to start with the news. So what put Boeing on my watch list for the day anyways, right? So why am I even looking at Boeing? Well, that starts with the news, right? News is that with the 737 MAX, okay, which has been the big problems for Boeing, all right, got bad news today that apparently there are some electrical equipment problems, all right? We already know that everything about Boeing is bullish right now. Everything. Return of traveling, orders are coming in, the 737 MAX has been cleared to fly again. Everything about Boeing is bullish in the long term right now. Everything. Except one thing. 2 things. If COVID pops up again and it locks down travel, or there's another 737 either crash or problem. So we get the news this morning that there's some electrical problems on some of the 737s. If this was a normal situation, it would be a very small blip on the radar. But because it's a 737, it's had so much problems and so many issues, and it's a hair trigger between the next time they ground them again, you're going to have investors sell off. Anybody who's made profit over the past several weeks, probably going to sell for profit right now because they're uneasy about this. Because what happens if they have to ground all the 737s again, right? What if they have to ground all the 737s again to check over all of them for the electrical problems? That's a lot of problems. So that right there gave me the downside pressure today.
Welcome, Mr.
Now, if the market was red today, Boeing would probably be down 3 or 4%. But the market is kind of supported. So people are pricing it in, and then you get those intraday scalpers and pushers, right? So that's the reason I'm focusing on Boeing on the downside first. Now let's go back to the chart. This right here, sell off. We got a buy up. We drew a little line that ended up following in line. So now that we've seen the volume die off, right, it becomes even more riskier because now momentum is starting to die off. There's no volume. It means there's not a lot of traders, right? So now let's go into the short side, right? Into this right here. From this indicator, when we were looking at it right here, okay, right here, why did this show to the downside? What showed this to the downside? A couple things. Number one, volume has dipped off. When volume dips off, you can generally have larger moves on less trades, right? Because when volume is high, you have a lot of shares changing hands. So generally, you don't see on a massive stock like this that big of a candle up or down because there's not as big of a movement, right? Because there's a lot more volume, there's a lot more tight-ass bid spread. But when the volume dips, one large order can have significantly more movement on the underlying up or down, okay? So that's something that we're focusing on. So volume is there. Now, let's look at the chart itself. What do we see? Right here, we see the 2050 MA starting to close, right? So we were looking at this starting to close. That means it's closing to the downside. That means that sell pressure is there. We're seeing that the candles are showing that we're in a selling pattern. Now we look at the volume. Volume is relatively low, meaning that it could drop much quicker off of a single order. Somebody's selling off. So let's say a large order filled here on this candle, right? See how the volume built up here? Let's say some large orders got filled here. Well, volume is dead here, so one large order that wants to take profit will drop this significantly quicker, okay? Now, let's look at the MACD. MACD is giving us the momentum, right? It's giving us the momentum here. And in this case, we're seeing the top side start to slow down. What does that mean? That means that the volume, the momentum is slowing down. So that means buyers aren't showing up as fast, right? And if buyers aren't there, that ball's not rolling anymore, okay? Imagine if you push a car, right, on a steady incline, right? And you're pushing, and then all of a sudden people stop pushing. Starts rolling back down, right? Momentum, right? It's all about momentum. In this case, what we're looking at is the momentum build up, and then look, not quite as much here, right? So that momentum kind of like, shit, okay, well, where the confidence is starting to go away. Now you're looking at the MAs at the bottom, the moving averages at the bottom, cross to the sell side again, right? Okay, this isn't bad. It didn't dip too hard. We're going, oh, fuck. And now we get that big momentum to the downside. So now I got the 2050 about to cross on the downside. I've got the moving averages on the MACD about to move. I've got momentum and volume picking up on the sell side. Everything about this said we're about to fall. Everything said we're about to fall. How far? That's going to depend on the volume. How many people come in and sell? Who's there to catch the bottom? Where is their price at? So when I start seeing that heavy red, that gives me the indication that we're going to continue moving. I took that play right here. You saw that the red, okay, this red right here, the sell side momentum on the MACD was much deeper and much redder than it was on the previous one, showing that just like you see with some of these right here, like look at this, right? You'll see oftentimes you'll see the momentum kick up. You'll see like small upside, downside, bigger upside, downside, boom, right? Same thing to the downside. It's all about momentum. And so all that did was tell me, hey, we're looking for some downside momentum. This looks like a pattern that's about to continue. Volume is relatively low, easy for the sell side. The momentum is there. Boom, let me take a scalp and get out. The play I took was super risky because if I was wrong, because you can always be wrong. One guy can come in and say, hey, you know what? I think I want to buy this. If I was wrong, I would have, instead of making 10% on one candle that moved this far, I could have lost 10% on the other side, okay? So when I'm looking to scalp same-day options or stocks, these are things I'm looking at, right? So if I were to look at the chart right now, okay, I'm going to look and say, okay, this is a buy right now, right? Because the immediate cross on the moving average here, we got a massive volume momentum here. Volume is picking up a little bit here, and the 2050 here looks like it's about to cross. Well, not cross, but it's about to come together, right? So everything about this right here would tell me we're in a buy, okay, for the next candle. So that's what that tells me. That tells me that I'm expecting the next candle to be green. I don't know because anything could happen. If volume doesn't build up, one person shaking out an order or one small order can move this more significantly. But this right here is telling me, okay, that we're in a slow uptick here, right? Not a massive uptick. Why? Because look, we're not getting significantly higher bars here, right? They're kind of sliding. But moving average is crossed. We are going green. I would expect this to do one of these right here. Right? Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that's just giving me the momentum to the buy side here. Yeah, look at that. See what we did right there? See that? Boom. Moved up right there. See how that candle moved up? That was the next candle, and we were in that pattern, right? So that gave us that short-term, upside. However, the one thing that's scary about this, and this is why I would say you wouldn't want to keep playing this momentum right now, is there's no volume. Notice how there's not even a candle. It's just a flat, it's just a flat candle there. There's no volume. There's not a lot of people trading this right here. So if you were in an option, you probably made your 5% in that single candle and you'd want to get out. We're still showing momentum to the upside, but there's no volume there. Now, switch it to the 5-minute candle and you get a better idea of where the day is going. On the daily, this is bullish. On the 5-minute candle, if you're playing this in equities and not options, then you're looking at the 5-minute, this is still bullish, right? We got this here. We never crossed to the downside with the momentum. We're pushing back up. The MAs here never actually touched, and they're looking like they're about to diverge on the a little bit wider here. So if I was looking at this, I would say that this is generally looking a little bit bullish here. But obviously, these are just indicators. They indicate things. All right, now on the 1-minute, notice this right here, guys. Obviously, the volume. Notice how that not only did we get this MACD candle a little bit lower, but it's more opaque, meaning there was less momentum to that side. Meaning that we just saw a little curve here, and based on the next candle, good chance we might start to see this start to dip again.